they're moving the numbers
On the
for
car.
the All-Star cars.
Yep.
For the All-Star race, they're moving the numbers back. That was a popular question for Ask Junior. We're gonna save that conversation, but they're also doing something else. There's Underglow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been around for decades. When I was cruising around as a kid in Kannapolis, Concord, around the mall and so forth, you saw a little Underglow on some cars. And
On yours?
No, I never did install that on anything that I owned. I never owned a car that it would have worked. I never had a car that, I had pickup trucks or a 67 Camaro or something like that. And Underglow's more of a modern sporty sort of,
Right.
it's not for every car.
Right.
So I haven't really dove into, I haven't really called up anybody to ask them exactly how this all went down. All right. I'm just using rumors, hearsay, and social media. So very toxic combination.
Well, consistent with the way everybody disseminates information everywhere else.
So that's how I'm gonna approach this conversation, and we'll see if it's not a train wreck.
It will be, but let's try it.
All right. So the movement of the numbers, we'll talk about that later. But they're also going to have Underglow, and the cars are going to be lit, obviously. And we saw this, not for the first time, but we saw this done really well, most recently, during the burnout on the boulevard in Nashville. Let's take Kurt Busch, for example. And Kyle Larson's car was also done like this, and they look really good. I think the bottoms were lit. Also, the interior might have been lit up a little bit as well. What I loved about that was, they were different than the other cars. All right? Not every car was like this. And they used the colors that, matched the car. Kurt had, the green monster color coming out from under his car.
That neon green.
Yeah. Man, it looked really cool. And, if you're going to do a burnout, there's going to be a lot of smoke. That light really hits that smoke really well. It was just a really cool additional effect, perfectly done. Well, that has, that's what has steamrolled into this idea here to use it in a race. And now, it might not look quite as good as it looked during the burnout because there won't be a continuous burnout during the race for that light to hit that smoke. But when the winner wins the race, if his car is underlit, you're going to see some smoke and some neon and all that good stuff. So that'll be pretty cool. I guess the one thing that I don't know that I'm a little curious about is the colors, all right, that they're going to use. I've heard, and I don't know if you guys have any other knowledge, that they're using specific colors to the manufacturers. So the Fords will be blue, and the Chevys will be amber, and the Toyotas, I'm assuming, maybe yellow. I don't know.
I have not heard
maybe red
about the Toyotas.
But do we know for sure that they are
maybe they aren't
doing
all,
the manufacturer-specific colors? So
that's what we have heard.
That's what we've heard.
And so let's if that's the case, and maybe I don't even know if all of them are doing it. We haven't really seen any content on social media with any of these cars kind of lit up, maybe outside their shop or in the shop at night, or just something fun that some of these race teams might think would be cool content. They haven't put that out, so we don't know what any of this looks like right now. We don't know what the Fords of Penske or Stewart-Haas look like if they all have that blue underglow. This is the only sort of problem I have, and we debated this pretty good this week amongst ourselves. Remember when you made the playoffs back in the Sprint days?
Yep.
And Sprint would put this yellow stripe on the bottom of the front of your car, and then put a yellow spoiler on the back of your car.
Yes, to all the playoff or chase drivers, that if you were in the hunt for it, you had a yellow spoiler.
Yes,
I remember that. Yeah.
And then when Monster came, it was green.
Yep.
I hated that. Didn't like it.
I agree with that.
And why is that?
Well, I put a lot of input into my own paint schemes, And when I design a car, whether it's me, if I design the car, I don't care if I'm the driver, the sponsor. That's the design that I have. That's the design that I've created, and it really pissed me off when the governing body, the ruling body would cater to that title sponsor and allow them to do things with that car.
Mess with your paint scheme, but more or less.
They put the yellow splitter on, or a big paint, big stripe of yellow across the nose, and the yellow spoiler. I think the roof number might have been yellow at one time. I can't really remember all the different things they did. That always annoyed the hell out of me because, if you had yellow in your scheme, it might work. It might not be too much of a, it might not mess up your scheme too bad. But sometimes it really ruined the paint scheme. It just kind of looked bad. It didn't look good.
Like on a Budweiser car, for instance.
Yeah, it might not look that great.
when there's no yellow in it.
So that always annoyed the hell out of me. And it was like this. It was another one of the things like you had no control over it. You felt like that there was only a few things that you can control, and that was okay. I could have some input on the design of my car. I can set it up. I can decide how well it runs or whatever. But otherwise, there's a giant rule book in front of me that I have to adhere to, and you can't get too creative outside of that. And then they would kind of infringe into your paint scheme, which is sort of your creative input.
Yeah, it's kind of random. It's just so random looking.
I don't think you're giving yourself enough gravity into how important you consider
I don't know
paint schemes.
that I can.
There's your kid, your wife, and your paint scheme in Dale Jr.'s world, in his list of priorities, right? Because the things that it used to entertain us how Dale Jr.'s priorities were always paint scheme first, and then like contract second, or something like that, whatever. That's what's important to him. And so while I'm just trying to help the listeners, especially you first-time listeners, and this is Mike talking, that you got to understand where Dale's coming from. Like paint scheme, even the thing you don't even notice, like the pinstripe, that little bitty pinstripe. Dale Jr. would sit there and move heaven and earth to get that changed if it wasn't exactly right. So
that's absolutely right, and I don't know why that's not as important to more people. I really don't. You're driving a race car, and look at this table. Look at all the different designs on this table. It was important to somebody because they all probably put a lot of thought and effort into the way those cars all looked, right? How come it's not as? I mean, maybe it is, but I don't understand if it's not as important to the driver. When a guy walks up to get in a car to race it, and he's going to race this car all year, or he's going to try to accomplish something extremely important and incredible in his life, the way this car looks, I feel should be important to the driver. Some don't care, and that's okay. It's not a right or wrong kind of thing. I just never understood how come the paint scheme and the way your car looked and how it's designed is not as important to some as it is others. Yeah, the paint scheme to me was everything. I grew up idolizing racing, NASCAR, and paint schemes are right into the middle of that mix with the personality of the driver. So, with that said, I always was annoyed by, when they would do something to the paint scheme that ruined it. And so with this Underglow, I guess I'm worried or curious. Not worried. I don't care. If it screws up somebody's paint scheme, whatever. It's not going to affect my life. But when I hear that, the manufacturers are going to use a particular color for all their cars, it might not look great under some of these cars because the color doesn't match the scheme or it's completely contradictory to the scheme. And that's unfortunate, So maybe I'm making a big deal out of nothing. More than likely, that's a good chance. But I'm going to be paying close attention to it.
So you're leaving yourself room to be okay with it. Then it sounds like
if it doesn't
You're going to watch
I'm a little worried that this is another one of them things like that yellow spoiler or like that, that Sprint yellow stripe across the nose or those. I'm worried that this is another episode of that or another example of that where maybe that Ford blue glow doesn't work under every Ford. Maybe, it would have been really cool if NASCAR. It would be cool if NASCAR does this in the future if they just let the teams choose the color that they want to run, right?
But you're good with the experiment? You think the neon lights, like I know your
I'm completely clear and good with the experiment.
Really?
Well, this is why.
And you're about to get into the debate.
This is what I want to know.
Yeah.
It's the All-Star race. They're not doing this in the Daytona 500. They're not doing the All-Star race. To me, it's lost its identity. It's become stale. We've talked about moving it forever. We're going to finally see it at Bristol. We should be thanking our lucky stars.
Thank you.
And be totally okay with a little underglow under the race cars.
Really?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And let me tell you what it feels like to me. If you've been dying for that Christmas present all your life and you finally get it and then you complain about the wrapping paper,
yeah,
that's what we got a All-Star race at Bristol.
Yes, but so why muddy it up with damn neon?
Because because the All-Star race is a carnival ride already.
It's not a tradition. The All-Star race to me is not a tradition.
Okay, that's fine.
It used to be, but the format has changed to where so many format changes every year. They tried to come up with a new way to make this race better, and they've only made it worse. All right,
trying to make it better at the same track. They just fixed the format that is the best format is the only format, and that's 1987. All right, and it has more to do with the cars and the personalities and what was on the line and their determination to go out there and get it. That's all plays a big part into why that race was so fantastic. But what my point is that no format is going to save that race. No amount of laps for segment. There's no magic number, all right? Go back to the original format. Stop fooling around with that.
Yes.
And just have the race. And
well, you're proving my point then.
Well, no, I'm not proving your point. So with everything going on in the world, this thing gets finally taken to Bristol, which everybody was wanting or asking for. Go somewhere, anywhere. Bristol, hell yes. That's a great place. Probably at the top of most everybody's list if they were going to move the All-Star race. Mm-hmm. It doesn't bother me that they're going to put a little underglow under the cars. I just wish they would allow the teams to choose the color so that it would look as good as it did at the burnout on the boulevard when Kurt Busch had green. Okay, that was pretty cool. Now, will that monster car look as good with amber glow underneath it? Probably not. I could probably be confident in saying that it's not going to look as good. Is it going to look as good in a well-lit concrete racetrack on that surface? I don't know. I don't know how that's going to show up. Probably not as good. Not as good as down on the boulevard in the dimly lit streets of Nashville. So I like the effort. They're trying. They got to evolve. They got to change. This doesn't bother me because it's not a Daytona 500 race. It's not throughout the entire playoffs. We should be thankful that this is not.
Is that next?
Yeah, let's be hopeful that this isn't something that comes into every single playoff.
It's going to be on a fan survey.
Well, Matthew, why don't you? We ought to give you your chance to explain in detail what it is you have a problem with.
I don't like it. I mean,
okay.
I just don't
That's
like it. And hey, I could be wrong, and I appreciate the fact that you're good with change, and I'm good with some changes too. I was wrong about the playoffs when it first came out. They're awesome. But we talk so much out of this side of our mouth that we've changed too much maybe in the sport over the years. And the first thing we do when we get what we want, like going to Bristol or whatever and trying something, let's do something that's completely out of our identity with these lights.
Yeah.
To me, it's like the glowing puck when they experimented with it in the NHL.
Yeah.
I mean, if I want to see friggin' neon lights under cars, I'll sit down with Hudson, who's 4, and watch Jackson Storm on cars.
Yeah.
To me, it's like we're stock car racing. Let's not neon it all up. Let's just have a badass race.
I love
and
it.
Be done with it.
I think your argument is well intended, and you got some great points there. But like you talk about your son and watching
Right.
the Cars movie. That's our future audience. If he likes Underglow and he sees this race on TV and goes, "Oh, just like the Cars movie, Dad, I love it." That's engaged him, and that's what we really need. I mean, we can create new fans. It's really hard to create, I think, a fan that's already, 20, 25 years old and hasn't been a fan of motorsports. It's hard to reel them in, but you want to get that 4 or 5 year old kid who's super impressionable, tuned into racing, when he sees the real thing that he's been watching in a cartoon in real life.
Let's put some eyes on the cars then.
All right. Well, yeah, but you know what he's saying.
I get what you're saying.
I think Hudson would think it's
do.
cool. I think your son would think it's cool, and
I
think
don't have
my
a
girls
problem
would
with
think
it. I
it's
just
cool.
wish they would have let the teams choose the color. Jimmy Johnson's car, for example, purple Underglow under that 48 with the purple accents on the body, that would look the best.
Yeah.
Amber, man, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to look on purple, black, and all that going on.
See, I'm sort of also on the flip side. Well, look, I'm on the side of, listen, we got the All-Star race at Bristol. These are the things that what we're talking about right now aren't affecting my day. Like when I saw it, I'm like, well, that's cool. It's for the All-Star race. Awesome. I got to be honest with you. Call me what you want, but all of the changes I've seen that NASCAR's made in the past several weeks on these things, like, even the numbers, like as we looked at the paint schemes, I was like, I think I kind of like it. I mean, like, I haven't had a bad feeling yet about things. Now, by the way, I haven't been on social media because, like, I've been away and I didn't have much service. I have no idea what the popular opinion is. Or
Nobody really has one yet because there's no content
we haven't
out
seen
there
a race.
to see it.
Oh, yeah, well, I got you. But we have seen paint schemes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about those in Ask Junior.
But like, I think I want to give it a shot. And rather than worry about things that might be wrong with it, I think that we've got to embrace a new vision for NASCAR and be willing to make mistakes. And this Underglow could be a mistake.
Yeah.
But we're not going to know until it's been on a racetrack. And I don't think there's a better race out there than the All-Star race to do this stuff. And I think that's what they've said, isn't it? They're like, look, we're going to experiment with the numbers and we're going to experiment
There's
with
a
this
choose cone.
I like that.
For the restarts, where the choose cone is
right?
there's going to be a choose cone for the restarts for the first time in Cup Series, where, as you're coming up to double up for the restart, you can choose inside or outside line. So maybe the first 8 cars choose the inside line. Well, the guy in ninth gets to drive all the way up to the outside of the front row.
That's cool.
Awesome.
I didn't know that. That is so cool.
Now that, to me, so if, those kind of things I'm excited about, I want that to work. I want that to be positive. And so, it's with that kind of goodness possible, I'm okay with this Underglow and this test. I really don't want to see the Underglow at all. I don't know. I don't want to see it every week. Maybe. I just depends on how easy it is to see the cars when you're watching the race. Does the Underglow sort of make it harder to see the car itself, who it is, all that? I don't know. We're just gonna have to play this out.
I've got one question for both of you on that topic. How important is it to you to get manufacturer identity? We talk so much about identity in these paint schemes. This is an attempt to kind of reinstill that manufacturer pride. And if so, is that not important to you guys?
That is. And a fan, I think the fan would say, well, the car I'm buying in the studio, showroom floor doesn't have Underglow. But I think your point, Mike, is that we need to bring back in that sort of rivalry distinction between manufacturers. The blue oval versus the Chevy bow tie. So to that, this is a positive possible way to do that. And so the great point. Great point. It's a good point.
I remember what the Toyota guy said recently after. Who was it that won Martinsville? Was it Denny?
There's a switch on the dash, too. Let me be sure to let you know there's a switch on the dash to control this light.
There is?
What?
Oh, man. I'd have to go strobe on that ass.
Yeah. So It's my knowledge from a photo that I've seen of a car with the dash that drivers control this light.
Huh.
And that's probably in everyone's best interest that it's not, what if they turn them all on and we start the race and everybody's like, I can't see a thing. Oh, this guy's blinding me.
Turn off your brights, asshole.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's a disaster